Hello Internet, my name is Hazel from Hazelnuttygames. It is actually Saturday and it is time for our regularly scheduled vlog programming, which I am we're back on track with. It's Fridays or Saturdays, one, not both, of the week, and that's when we do this, and it's good to be on track. So, this week, or more accurately since Tuesday? Was it Tuesday I did my catch-up vlog? Something like that. There has been some news, some revelations, if you will, on the topic of PvP loot sources. And by revelations, I mean hotfixes. So, what has happened with the PvP loot sources is previously, so if you weren't into PvP, this is just a little bit of a catch-up. For PvP, there's like set gear, and then you've got like this wild gladiator gear that is not part of your PvP set, but will have different stats on it, and then certain pieces of that are going to be best in slot for you based on what stats are good for you in your class. So generally, most people will want a couple pieces of this wild gladiator gear that's not, you know, available off the Conquest vendor. And in 6.2, they decided, hey, you know what would be a cool idea is to put that in an RNG box, basically like a cache, that you get from, I think, winning either 3 rated battlegrounds or your first weekly kill of the Ashran boss. And people were pretty pissed, understandably so, because in order to be absolutely optimal in PvP, which for most PvPers is just kind of an annoyance that they get out of the way in the beginning of the season before they go and actually, you know, work on their game. Like, for most PvPers that I know, getting their gear is not the point. You get your gear and then you can play the game. It's just something you kind of have to do. And in order to be optimal in this old system, you were basically subject to the wrath of the RNG gods. And if they decided they didn't like you, you were just kind of boned until they decided they liked you again. So what has happened now is they have put all of the stuff, almost all of the stuff. I think there's some trinkets that they couldn't figure out because of technical difficulties, but basically everything worth having has now been put on the gosh darn vendor for gosh darn conquest points. And this part I'm really excited about because I hadn't really gotten as far as like trying to optimize best in slot. I mean, we're still just gearing up with regular conquest gear at this point. But previously, in order to get your entire conquest cap, the last 200 points had to come from Ashran. Not rated battlegrounds, not regular battlegrounds, just Ashran. And that's kind of the worst thing, especially if you have to wait a really long time to get in, and then if your team's just having a real rough time. It's awful. And they have finally backed off, and you can now get your entire conquest cap. And once these hotfixes go live, I'm pretty sure they're going live any minute now. You can get your entire conquest cap from whatever the hell you want that awards conquest points, of course. You no longer have to get that 200 point Ashran bonus, which I'm really excited about because that was part of what was kind of deterring me from wanting to PvP gear up a bunch of alts, was the thought of, alright, you know, I can get all my honor gear. I can do the honor gear grind on like, a few characters, that's fine. And I can arena cap quite a few characters, because, you know, getting your arena cap once you're caught up is not a very big deal, especially if you have a bunch of friends that want to try out different comps. That's fine. The thought of sitting through a 90-minute Ashran queue to get into a gamble of an Ashran battle to try and get 200 extra points in each alt was just awful. I could barely keep up with doing it on my druid, who is my PvP main. I can't even fathom trying to do it more than that, so I'm really, really happy that it's gone. In further PvP hotfixes, they have also adjusted healing and absorbs downwards by 15%. Flat out 15% nerf to healing and absorbs in PvP. So don't freak out if you're a raid healer, just for PvP. Healing and absorbs have been nerfed by 15%. This is a hotfix that has gone live already, I believe, and I mean, I'm a PvP healer, so this is kind of a direct nerf to me, but I'm not really upset just because in the last week or so, or 2 weeks, or basically since the season started doing games, I have seen a ridiculous number of games go deep dampening, like 60-70% dampening before somebody dies, because healing is just out of control. Not even just for healers, but hybrids. It's a problem, and I do think this nerf was needed. I think 15% might be heavy-handed. We're gonna have to play through it a bit and see how that shakes down. They never really they never really tweak things by just a little bit. They never go, let's start with 5% and then like skook it up to 10 if that's not enough. They're all like, all right, 15%, let's go. You can never say that they're not gung-ho about their tuning, but it's probably gonna be fine. And I do think it's needed. So I'm really excited with these changes to do a whole bunch of PvP. I think that's gonna keep me pretty interested in 6.2. I'm having fun. And to help kickstart that PvP hype, as it were. It's Battleground weekend. There are 200%. So like triple, is that how math works? I'm not the best at that. 200% XP, no, not XP boost. Honor points. 200% bonus honor points are the words I'm trying to say. For Battlegrounds this weekend is the current event. I know my guild was like talking shit about it in event at raid like the other night, which I thought was pretty funny because I'm like really hyped. But you know, different people, different types for different stuff. It's gonna be good. This is how I'm gonna catch up. I have no idea. I'm probably gonna do like 5 Battlegrounds. They'd be like, well, I'm done. But I would really like to catch up honor gear on my hunter, maybe my lock. And, you know, if it goes really well, maybe I'll just start picking other characters out of my pool of 9-100s that sits in my loading screen doing nothing but looking pretty in their transmogs. So, can't wait. And I've got some friends, and we're all just gonna, like, get on voice chat, and we're gonna stream, and we're gonna do Battlegrounds, and it's gonna be a great time. So, that has been more accurately, that is going to be my week. That's gonna be my weekend. It is going to be a PvP weekend. I think my dog is, like, knocking things over. I should probably go check on that. But before I do that, let's get to some questions. Anthony wants to know, hey Hazel, what are you hoping for in the next WoW expansion will be? Any guesses of what it will be? Well, what am I hoping for? And I think I've talked about this before, but if I am just like cherry picking concepts that I want to have put into WoW in the next expansion, or like the next expansion to be designed around. I really like the whole South Seas idea that's been tossed around, and there's a number of different ways people have proposed it being done. What I basically want, I don't know if any of you have ever played Zelda Wind Waker, but basically, there's this big-ass ocean, and you have a boat that you can actually ride on. You don't tell other people to ride your boat. You have your own boat. And there's like a whole bunch of islands in this ocean. You go and you chart the ocean, and you discover the islands, and different islands will have dungeons on it, or like mini games, or, you know, quest objectives, or just like, there's all sorts of different islands with different crap on them. I want the WoW version of Wind Waker. I want to get on my boat and explore an ocean and with a buttload of islands on it that have all sorts of different things going on. They can have a PvP island, they can have raids on islands, they can have dungeons on islands, they can have, you know, parties on islands, they can have battlegrounds on islands, they could have like an open world arena. I guess I already said PvP, didn't I? I'm kind of PvP focused right now, but you could have whatever the hell you want on islands with boats. Now, I haven't thought this through. I have no idea how this works with flying. If you need a boat, maybe you need a boat while leveling, and then once you can fly, you just, you know, get in your bird and just fly. I don't know if I want naval combat or not. I want boats that you can ride and like islands. That's basically my whole wish. The other thing that I kind of want now, that I never knew I wanted until it was suggested kind of, was there's a couple of fan concepts for the next expansion floating around. I don't know if either of them are anywhere close to legit. I kind of doubt it. It's a little early. But the, I believe it was the Dark Prophet fan theory for the next expansion, included a Shadow Stalker class, which was kind of like a cross between, it was like it was a bow user that had like dark magic and could heal, and if they added a Shadow Stalker class that was similar to what was described, I would switch in a heartbeat. I would play the butts off that. That sounds fantastic. It sounds kind of like a Shadow Priest, except with a bow, and I can like pretend in my heart that I'm Sylvanas. That's, you know, it's something I've always wanted. Something most people have always wanted, I think. But anyways, those are the things I want. What I think or guess the next expansion will be, I have no idea. I feel like before Warlords came out, I was trying to guess what it would be, and never in 100 years would I have thought time-traveling orcs. So, not a clue. But I'm hoping that there's, like, some islands in an ocean. I think that would be real fun. OTT, I have no idea how to say that. OTT asks, I'm paraphrasing, what are your thoughts on online relationships? So, I'm a little biased because I met my husband online. I met him on an online dating site. And, yeah, so that is going to bias me a little bit because obviously it worked out for me. But it involved an awful lot of work, and it was a lot harder than a relationship has to be if you can meet someone locally. So when you're talking about online relationships, there's online relationships as in you meet somebody on an online dating site, you get to know them, and you make plans for how you're going to relocate to be physically near each other. The other kind of online relationship is you meet somebody online and you sort of continue this relationship in this like perpetual state of you're really far away, and that's never really gonna change, but we love each other, so we're gonna make it, but we don't have an actual plan. And that's the kind of online relationship I do not recommend. I think if you are going to have an online relationship, which can work, it has to have an end date. It has to have a goal that you're working towards, because it gets really, really hard. And if you don't have something to look forward to, some end date for how hard that is, it's too much. So yeah, short summed up thoughts. I do think online relationships can work. Mine obviously did, and I am very happy. I don't think there's anything wrong with getting to know somebody online, but I do think that continuing the relationship long distance perpetually with no hope of ever, connecting, with no hope of ever, relocating to actually be together, that is a bit of that's not gonna go good places, is where I'm at on that. So that has been my week. If you have a question you would like answered on a vlog, it can be WoW related, it can be not WoW related. You can ask me about peppers. I'm not that knowledgeable about peppers. Google can probably help you more, but you know what? I have feelings about peppers. I wish my peppers would make peppers. They're doing fine. They're fluffy and they're green and they're alive and they're doing great and they're a good size, but you know what? It's almost August and they're not even flowering because I think it's because it's hot. I don't know. Anyways, I hope you guys have a wonderful week, and I will see you again. Hopefully see some of you on stream, and talk to you next Friday or Saturday. Have a wonderful day.